My husband warned me to drain our joint accounts. What happened 72 hours later changed everything. I want you to picture something for a moment. You're 64 years old. You've spent 31 years building a life with someone, raising children, paying off a mortgage, sitting beside each other in hospital waiting rooms, burying parents together. And then one Tuesday morning, while you're still in your robe with a cup of coffee going cold on the counter, your husband of 3 decades looks you dead in the eyes and says, "Teresa, you need to take your name off our joint accounts. Today. Before the end of the week." He didn't say why. He just said do it. And God help me, I almost did. But before I tell you what happened next, and trust me, what unfolded over the following 72 hours will leave your jaw on the floor, I need to ask you something. If you have ever felt invisible in your own marriage, if you have ever quietly swallowed your instincts to keep the peace, or if you simply believe that women over 60 deserve to be heard, please hit that like button right now and subscribe to this channel. I share stories like mine every week because nobody told me what I'm about to tell you, and I wish to God someone had. Now, let me take you back to that Tuesday morning. My husband's name is William. We met when I was 32 and he was 35. He was charming in that quiet, steady way. Not flashy, not loud. He wore the same cologne for 20 years. He mowed the lawn on Saturdays. He was the kind of man your mother would have called dependable. And for most of our marriage he was. But the last 4 years had been different. He'd retired early, which I thought was our reward. All those years of sacrifice finally paying off. Instead, retirement seemed to crack something open in him. He became secretive about money. He started taking fishing trips alone, though he'd never been much of a fisherman. He kept his phone face down on every surface in the house. I noticed. I always noticed. But I told myself the story women my age are so good at telling ourselves, he's just adjusting, he's just going through something, give him space, don't make it a thing. So when he sat across from me that Tuesday with that strange flat look in his eyes and told me to move my name off our accounts, my first instinct, I am ashamed to admit this, was to ask him how he'd like me to do it. Can you imagine? 31 years and my first reflex was compliance. But something stopped me. Something small and stubborn buried deep. Maybe it was the way he wouldn't quite meet my eyes. Maybe it was the way he'd already showered and dressed before I was even awake, like he'd been rehearsing this conversation. Whatever it was, I heard myself say, "Let me think about it, William." And I went into the bathroom, sat down on the edge of the tub, and I thought. I called my daughter Carolyn that afternoon. She's 38, sharp as a tack, works in corporate compliance. I didn't tell her everything. I didn't have everything yet. But I described the conversation and she went very quiet in a way that scared me more than William's flat eyes had. She said, "Mom, don't touch those accounts. Don't move anything. But tomorrow morning, go to the bank alone and ask to speak with someone about your account status. Find out exactly what's in them, what's been moved recently, and whether anything unusual has happened in the last 6 months." I didn't sleep that night. The next morning, while William was out, another mysterious errand, I drove to our bank branch. I sat down with an account manager named Patricia, a composed woman about my age who seemed to understand without my saying so that this wasn't a routine visit. What she showed me on that screen made the room tilt. In the past 4 months, William had made a series of transfers, always just under the reporting threshold, always to an account I didn't recognize. Not enormous amounts individually, but added together, nearly $47,000 had left our joint savings. $47,000. Gone. Quietly. While I was making dinner and watching television and trusting my husband of 31 years. I did not cry in front of Patricia. I don't know how, but I didn't. She gently informed me of my rights as a joint account holder. She told me what documentation I was entitled to. She did not tell me what to do. That wasn't her place. But she printed everything I asked for and slid it across the desk in a plain manila envelope. I drove to Carolyn's office next. She took one look at me, closed her office door, and we sat together for 2 hours going through those papers. That evening, Carolyn called her friend Judith, a family law attorney. Judith agreed to a consultation the very next morning. I need to pause here and say something to every woman watching this. Please have a Judith in your life before you need one. I had no idea what my rights were. I had no idea that what William had been doing had a name. Judith gave it one: dissipation of marital assets. She explained that in our state, The deliberate depletion of shared marital funds in anticipation of a divorce is not just morally wrong. It is legally actionable. William, it turned out, had been planning this for longer than 4 months. Judith helped me understand what steps to take to protect what remained. I won't share every legal detail because every situation is different and you must always consult your own attorney. But I will tell you this. Within 72 hours of that Tuesday morning conversation, I had documentation, legal counsel, and a clear picture of what my husband had intended. What he had intended was to leave me with nothing. On Thursday evening, William came home and made himself a sandwich like it was any other night. He asked if I'd been to the bank yet. I told him I had. He nodded, satisfied. And then I set the manila envelope on the kitchen table between us. The color drained from his face so fast it was almost fascinating. Like watching a window fog up in reverse. I didn't raise my voice. I want you to understand that. I am 64 years old and I have earned the right to speak calmly even when my heart is breaking. I laid out what I knew. I told him I had spoken with an attorney. I told him I understood exactly what he had been doing and for how long. He tried 3 different stories in the span of about 8 minutes. The money was for a surprise. The money was an investment he'd been meaning to tell me about. The money was to cover a debt he'd been embarrassed to mention. I listened to each one politely. Then I told him that his attorney would be hearing from Judith. He slept in the guest room that night. He was gone before I woke up. I'm not going to stand here and tell you the aftermath was simple or painless. It wasn't. Divorce at 64 after 31 years is its own particular kind of grief, even when the marriage deserved to end. You mourn the person you thought you knew. You mourn the future you thought you were walking toward together. You mourn, in quiet moments, the woman who almost handed over the last of her security because she was afraid to seem difficult. But here is what I also want you to know. The court proceedings took several months. Because Carolyn had advised me to act quickly, because I had documentation from the bank, because Judith was thorough and fierce and brilliant, the dissipated funds were factored into the settlement. I did not walk away with nothing. I walked away with my home, my portion of our retirement accounts, and enough financial stability to begin again. I am 64. I have begun again. I took a watercolor class in February. I had lunch last week with 3 women I met through a divorce support group, and we laughed so hard at that restaurant that the table next to us started laughing too without even knowing why. My granddaughter calls me every Sunday. Carolyn checks in every few days with a voice message that always starts with just checking on my favorite person. I am not okay in all the ways yet. But I am okay in enough of them. If you are watching this and something in your gut has been quietly trying to get your attention, please listen to it. I am not telling you your marriage is what mine was. I am not telling you to assume the worst. But I am telling you, woman to woman, that your financial security is not a small thing. Your name on your own accounts is not a small thing. Knowing what is yours is not a small thing. You have earned every dollar of that life. Do not let anyone convince you that curiosity about your own finances is somehow disloyal. William warned me to drain our accounts. What he didn't know was that warning me was the one thing that saved me. If this story moved you, if it made you feel less alone, or if it reminded you of someone who needs to hear it, please share this video. Leave a comment below. Tell me your story or just say hello. I read every single one. And I'll see you in the next one.